Okay, think back to your grade school years or your students' grade school years and think about what you enjoyed and what you despised. You know, you had recess, you had lunch, you had your friends, you had class, and you had testing. Well, today I'm going to tell you why I believe that the TAKS test is not a good way to assess the knowledge of students throughout the state of Texas. Throughout my presentation today, I'm going to tell you the students' viewpoints on TAKS testing, the teachers' viewpoints on TAKS testing, why there's too much emphasis put on the TAKS test, as well as graduation requirements and the TAKS test. To begin with, students and the TAKS test. The TAKS test is very stressful on the students. From the very get-go of the school year, students are forced to do TAKS practice after TAKS practice. And after the entire school year, so after 7 or 8 months of doing nothing but TAKS practice, the students are so stressed out and their anxiety level is built up on this one test. The students' ability is not to the best of their ability because they've been practicing this TAKS test and there's so much emphasis put on it that by the time it gets here at the end of the school year, the students are tired and are stressed out because all of their knowledge and skills that they've learned throughout the year is based on this one test. So since the students are stressed out, the performance on the exam is not to the students' best ability because their stress level is so high. Also, the students do not learn everything that they need to learn because the teachers teach nothing but the TAKS test throughout the entire school year. There's a lot more valuable information that students could learn, such as information about holidays and other things, instead of just the TAKS and the TAKS that the students practice the entire school year. Next, for the teachers. The teachers, this is also very stressful for the teachers. Teachers are stressed out about this TAKS test because the teachers are kind of graded on the TAKS test. The students' performance and how they perform on the TAKS test, it kind of shows what the teachers have taught the students, which it isn't a very good demonstration of the students' knowledge, as I said earlier, because the students are stressed out. So the teacher should not be graded and evaluated on the students' performance of the TAKS test because the TAKS test is not to the students' best ability. Also, the teacher cannot cover all the material that needs to be covered throughout the school year because they're focused so much on the TAKS test. The third point I want to mention is that there's too much emphasis put on the TAKS test. As I've already said when I'm talking about the students and the teachers, there's too much emphasis put on the TAKS test because that's all that the students do throughout the school year. Day in and day out, they're just TAKS practice, TAKS practice, TAKS practice. So, as you can imagine, as students do these TAKS practice booklets day in and day out, by the time they do it for 6 or 7 months, they're worn out from it and they're tired, so they don't perform as well at the end. And as I said, by the time it gets here, the students are bored of the material because they've seen it the entire year. And they may not read the questions as clearly as they would beforehand because they're so bored of the material that they've been covering all year. My final point is graduation requirements and the TAKS test. I personally believe that students should be able to walk across the stage if their grades are good enough throughout the school year. If the student passes their classes, they should be able to walk. If the students pass all their classes but fails the TAKS test, they should be able to walk because as I said, the TAKS test does not represent the student's total ability because their anxiety and stress level is up. Throughout the years, the TAKS test, or the Texas State exam, has changed. From 1980 to 1985, it was called the TABS. From 1986 to 1990, it was called the TEAMS. From 1990 to 2002, it was a TOS. And from 2003 through the present, it's called TAKS. However, this next school year is the last year for the TAKS test. It will be now called the STAR test. This will begin in the 2011-2012 school year. STAR stands for the State of Texas Assessment of Academic Readiness. So although these state exams have been changing over the year, as they change, they get more and more difficult, which just leads to more and more stress for the students as well as the teachers. So in conclusion, as I've stated, the TAKS test is not a good way to assess a student's knowledge throughout the years because their stress level and anxiety level is up so high. Throughout my presentation, I have told you the students' viewpoints on the TAKS test, the teacher's viewpoint on the TAKS test, why there's too much emphasis put on the TAKS test, and that I believe that students should be able to walk across the stage if they pass their classes and do not pass the TAKS test. As a future educator, I do not believe that the TAKS test or the STAR test is a valuable way to assess a student's knowledge. I believe that the state of Texas should find another way to assess the student's knowledge because this one test and the emphasis that's put on this one test is too much, and the student's ability is not shown by this one test.